baby.
Oh!
Yes!
There's another one there in the teaser.
This is the Sport Fishing Championship.
And it is stop number 8 of 10, the Oak Bluffs Blue Water Classic. Look where we are at just outside of Martha's Vineyard. 2 event hosts for this, Oak Bluffs Marina on Martha's Vineyard, as well as McDougal's just across the way, that little slip of water there. Either way, it's all about having a good time here at the Oak Bluffs Blue Water Classic. Sport Fishing Championship, we will be crowning a champion in about 1 month's time and award a $1 million prize. The scenery has been unbelievable. I'm Robbie Floyd with Peter Miller, and you see the green grass, you see the sandy beaches, but you also see a lot of fish being caught here in the Atlantic Ocean, and that's what the Sport Fishing Championship is all about.
That's right, Robbie. We've got 45 boats fishing this event, and we've got a catch alert right there. You can see the Gypsy got their yellowfin, another yellowfin, and then T0 voted multiple bluefin tuna, and then Gypsy caught a wahoo, and then we got more yellowfin tuna. So
this
the
all started this morning, at 4 o'clock this morning, working our way through those fish catches, but you notice the variety, the yellowfin tuna, and we were hearing teams didn't have just 1 or 2. We heard they had many fish on at one time.
Robbie, I always say that if you can get multiple bites where you can clear all the lines with fish, you're doing great, because nobody has to do anything other than focus on fighting the fish, and you're not worried about tangling into the outriggers or another situation. Just fight your fish, catch them, and maybe you'll win.
Caught a Yahoo off-site, did. Again, working our way throughout the day. Several fish being caught. Now, that is one of our championship fish we'll be talking about. That could be a $50,000 fish. There's some big ones in these waters.
They say Yahoo when you catch a wahoo, but what we're really after is the blue marlin, and the one who catches the blue marlin first gets the prize. They get the extra 100 points, and Lights Out is doing just that. They got the first one.
Absolutely. You see they have a released white marlin at 521. That was just a moment ago. Outnumbered, also had a big eye tuna. 140 pounds is what that one hit the scales. It was one of our teams that took off yesterday. We'll talk about that. But it was a early start or a late start, however you want to look at it.
We're going to call it late, Robbie. We're going to call it a late start. They've got their underwater lights on, making it look all majestic out there, getting ready. They couldn't leave until 12:01. The cameramen were jumping on board. The guys were gearing up. The food was ready. The cocktails were ready. The sleeping bags are ready. Everything was ready.
Each of our teams, again, took off at 12 o'clock. They were going to fish day 2 and day 3. We had one team actually go out yesterday, and that's something that they're going to have to decide to do, and they have to identify the day before which day they would go out.
That's right. It was like you said, it was a late night. That's playing hooky. They went out there late night, 12:01 a.m.
All in search of the mighty blue marlin.
My name's Jimmy Ricciardi. I'm fishing in the Oak Bluffs Blue Water Classic. We're fishing on playing hooky. It's a 38-foot Viking, 14-foot beam, 550 Cummins engines. We've won the tournament before, 2018, a little over 400-pound swordfish. We are targeting to win the tournament, basically. We're going to be targeting some billfish, blue marlin, some white marlin. Can't wait to get out there.
Damon, who runs the local tournament here, the Oak Bluffs Blue Water Tournament, has been a friend of mine for over 35 years. You know, coincidentally with the SFC, it just lined up and kind of made the whole tournament even better.
This is a tremendous tournament. They left, again, early in the night, and they had still a several-hour run out to their spot. So although they could fish immediately at 12:02, you're not going to do anything close. They still have to make those runs.
Yeah, we're being told that the bite is pretty much a 100-mile run out to those canyons. You know, one boat's a 38 Viking, and the next boat is a
51 Blackwell.
Is a 61 Blackwell,
Yeah,
and El Bandito.
The thing with El Bandito is kind of a blended team. I think that was last year's first and second place teams now on one boat. I mean, that should be a powerhouse team. And you can see where these guys are roughly out in the waters. And we've talked about the 130-mile barrier. That's a generalization right there where they're at. But they all have to stay inside 130 miles.
Yeah, it's not a giant secret as to where these guys are going to be fishing. You know, they can find each other on the radar. The equipment these days is pretty strong. But they're going to be fishing that continental shelf. They're going to be fishing those breaks and those drop-offs. And that's what it's all about. But they're pretty stacked up off that corner.
Some of the things to look for on site with Site 1 is it is starting to get windy and windier here as we are actually on site this time with Site 1. Robbie Floyd, he's Peter Miller, and it's good to be here, Peter. I mean, it just, as you talked about earlier, you know, you can feel it in here. You can smell fish in the air. I mean, I've been looking forward to coming here for quite some time.
Absolutely love this smell. It's very different. You know, coming from Miami, you know, we don't have this. So when you smell this and you see these giant seagulls, these seagulls are about 20 pounds as they fly by. The beaches are different. You got the seagrass and the dunes. It's so different, and there's just something about this atmosphere that just feels right, and the fish are biting. Guys are having a great time, and there's been about 10 marlin caught thus far. And
we talk about championship fish, our 3 different categories, but we also see some big eye tuna here as well. We'll hear tales of bluefin tuna. These are some different varieties we haven't seen, and if you catch a big blue, you've got a big fight on your hands.
That's right. You know, the big bluefin tuna, I mean, they can get up to 900 pounds, 1,000 pounds. You never know. This is an area where they love to feed, and if there's food here, they're going to be here, and they're going to be big, and they're going to be fatty, and they're going to be worth a lot of money. So if you bring in a big bluefin tuna, you're feeling pretty good about it. But what you really want is that blue marlin for those point precious 350 points.
That's awesome. When we look through the catch alerts today and you talk about that lights out with that first catch of the day, it's been very, you know, critical to get that first catch and be a blue marlin, but they're also catching multiples of the other fish as well.
That's right, and they wound up catching a second blue marlin, and they also caught a white marlin and multiple tuna. So I believe they have a wahoo as well. We don't know how big it is, but that's pretty exciting. That's good stuff.
How do you think they're catching these fish? Because we saw different varieties as we went along, more artificial style as we came to the Atlantic, but we saw a lot of live bait stuff in the Gulf.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're going to be doing trolling with artificials, and they're going to be trolling with dead bait, and they're going to be doing whatever they can to raise these fish into their spreads. So they're obviously doing something a little different. These winners, the guys that are winning, they found a great area. It's no coincidence that they happen to have 3 billfish under their belt and a wahoo, so they're in fish-rich waters, Robbie.
You know, we're in Falmouth, but just across the way, I mean, it depends on how fast your boat is, and I know this boat that we're about to talk about is not necessarily the quickest. You have to get there somehow, and the way is the Island Queen. It takes off from McDougal's here. There it is. It just took off about 10, 15 minutes just a moment ago behind us. I'm like, which boat is this? Which one? It's that one honking right behind you, Robbie, but it's really a cool way for the passengers to make their way over and just kind of kick back and relax for a bit.
Oh, yeah, what a great way to, get to the next spot, and he blew his horn saying, hey guys, it's right, it's time to go on the sportfishingchampionship.com. Island Queen coming through hot, and they blew the horn and woke us up, and we're ready to go.
The one near our hotel is a little bit further south. There was kind of a madhouse down there, and that's the one you actually take over from with your cars and everything else. But I mean, if you want to get a parking spot, you better come early, huh?
Oh yeah, I was trying to get something to eat, and I could not park because it's that many people here. And you know, I'll tell you, everybody's really friendly here. That's something I noticed. The beaches are beautiful, the people are friendly. It's not crowded yet. The parking was crowded because everybody was really hungry. That's the one thing I noticed. Well, we're gonna dedicate the no parking to a lot of hunger.
Also with this, when you do drive over, you also have a way to get back, and you can see the cars lining up. It is an unbelievable facility. You used to spend a lot of time here vacationing as a youth. I have not. This is my very first time, but I can tell you, me and my family will be coming back. You see the green grass, but it's the blue water and the blue fish that they're searching for here at the Sport Fishing Championship.
SFC coverage of the Oak Bluffs Blue Water Classic is sponsored by Seaholm Watches, by Smith Optics, and by Fish Razor.
A day out on the water could go great. Or it could have a few minor setbacks. Things could get rough. Or you could lose that $900 smartphone. Whatever the problem, Yugo provides unmatched premium protection for any water sports adventure. Yugo. To get yours, visit YugoWear.com or simply scan the QR code on the screen. And remember, just add water.
So, you want this, but you can't have it without this, or this, or this. Until now, introducing a new way to travel, intranationally. Get all that international charm without ever leaving the country. Right here in St. Augustine, Ponte Vedra. Get all that culture, all the cuisine from that culture. You're welcome. All the gram-worthy sites from that #culture. Right here at home. St. Augustine, Ponte Vedra. Travel intranationally.
The Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation is honored to be the official charity of the Sports Fishing Championship. Through this partnership and the support of donors like you, future generations will enjoy and benefit from a naturally balanced ocean ecosystem. Our education programs, both in the classroom and online, bring to life the work needed to make sure we have clean oceans for decades to come. Join us today at www.ghof.org.
SFC coverage of the Oak Bluffs Blue Water Classic is sponsored by Swordfishing Products, by Vineyard Winds, and by Yugo.
Double-digit billfish being caught here at the Sport Fishing Championship in Massachusetts. We're almost near that finish line. Robbie Floyd and Peter Miller here with you. We're in Falmouth, Massachusetts, just across the way from Martha's Vineyard. We've seen some green waters before in our blue water event. Now we're seeing that blue water here in the Atlantic. But Oak Bluffs Marina, two different opportunities to take off from, but either way, they're going to be heading back. Some of them already coming back for the weigh-in. The guys that took off yesterday, they actually come back today. They had to be in by 5 o'clock. We're already starting to see some weigh-ins. But the guys that took off this morning, this field, for the most part, they took off tonight at midnight. You're seeing where they are on our Garmin playing field. And it's about a 4 or 5 hour ride out there to these fishing grounds. They are the canyons. Welcome on site with Site 1. These canyons, they're critical. I mean, as much as we saw the oil rigs in the Gulf, it's the canyons here in the Atlantic.
That's right. It's all about those canyons. And these guys are running out there. 130 miles is the perimeter where they get to it. And they are stacking up super tight in those areas to catch the fish. The blue marlin, the white marlin, and all the tuna and wahoo that they're catching currently.
We're seeing a lot of wildlife out here. We just saw an osprey snatch a vermin out of there. They're catching fish. A lot happening, and also happening on the wind front. It is a breezy day here, but also vineyard wind. You take a look at this piece here in just a moment, and it's not just about the wind, it's also the research around the wind as well.
Vineyard Wind is about to construct the first offshore wind farm on a commercial scale in the United States. 62 13-megawatt turbines are going to be built about 14 miles south of Martha's Vineyard in Nantucket. Those 62 turbines combined will generate 800 megawatts of electricity, which is enough to power 400,000 homes and is equivalent to taking 325,000 cars off the road. It's really important that we collect the baseline data of species that are in and around the wind energy area. And so this project focuses on highly migratory species. So we're using acoustic tags, and we're working collaboratively with local fishermen to help tag the species. And then we're also deploying acoustic receivers in the entire wind energy area that will pick up the tag information anytime that fish swims by it.
Over the next few months, we're going to be tagging up to 50 bluefin. They'll be monitored by echo receivers. That information will be coming back to New England Aquarium for analysis to find how the migratory patterns of bluefin tuna, sharks, and marlin change or are unchanged by activity within the lease areas.
We're also doing a lobster study where we're looking at the distribution of lobster. We're also doing a trawl survey where we're looking at finfish species in the area. We're doing another drop camera survey looking at the benthic habitat and macroinvertebrates, and all of that research is done collaboratively with commercial fishermen. All the developers are helping with that effort as well. This project will go on for 5 years, so we'll be able to document those changes.
During my discussions with groups and individuals about the turbines, one of the big misconceptions is that they won't be able to fish in the area anymore, which is not the truth. You can actually fish right up to the turbine. Introducing structure to the area will improve fishing. Structure brings fish, brings other invertebrates. I mean, it brings a whole oasis effect, and it should improve the recreational fishing greatly, both from the bottom all the way to the surface.
Peter's pretty cool. I mean, we saw the structure in the Gulf, another form of energy. Now we're going to see it here. And I like how you said how it affects or how it doesn't affect the area around it.
That's right, and that highly migratory species it's a big deal, and these are the fish that are obviously migrating, and you need a permit. I know fishing where I fish out of South Florida, we have to get permits to keep tunas, to actually harvest the tuna, and they are targeting, how they live and where they travel to, and they can tell us a lot about it.
Looking at the Garmin Team Spotter, we see everybody kind of bunched up, and we mentioned the canyons on this day, and it's not year-round that these fish work their way through the canyons. When we were in the Gulf, we were talking about the Gulf Stream, and okay, Gulf Stream, it makes sense, but that movement of the water, that current goes all the way up the Atlantic, and it doesn't move into that shelf until later on in the year. It's not happening until June here.
Yeah, and that's the case with this highly migratory species, and that's exactly what they're talking about. And they're tagging these species to be able to study where they travel to, what they're seeing, and what they're doing, and they can figure out when they're going to come through and everything about them and their growth patterns. And if you catch and release them, you want to pull that tag out and re-tag them if you can.
As far as what these guys are going to be looking at, not only today, yesterday, and tomorrow, though, it's not just the water moving, but it's how the water and the temperature differences between the water. If you can get right on that line, that's kind of the magic spot, but also you're looking for those eddies, the disturbances in that perfect pattern.
That's right. There's times when you're going to fish an area where you have a temperature break. You might have 78 and you might have 77, and you'll fish that 78 side and crush them one day, and the very next day they'll be in that 77-degree temp on that temperature break, and it's kind of hard. You have to kind of try both sides. We did it one night when we caught swordfish in the 78. We went there the next night in 78. It was all sharks. The guy in 77 degrees caught all swordfish the next night, so it was kind of like a flip-flop, and that was very interesting to me.
He was lighting it up. I know you fished all waters all around the world. We actually have Damon Sacco, the tournament director, on tomorrow. He was the one giving me my scoop, and we'll get to have him tomorrow on site with Site 1 as well. We still have plenty more of the Sport Fishing Championship. It's day number 2, event day number 2, tournament day 2. Some are done. Some still have another full day or 2 days lying ahead. Again, our Garmin boat tracker out there, and they're all huddled up in the same spot playing hooky. They're a little bit away from the schoolyard there, Peter.
Well, they're playing hooky. That's the whole thing. They're playing hooky from the rest of the crew, and they're doing their own thing, and hopefully that will pan out for them.
They're not in class, but again, we got more for the Sport Fishing Championship after this from Martha's Vineyard.
When you're serious, you are as excited to wake up for a 4 a.m. fishing trip as you were when you were a kid. It means winning 3 World Sailfish Championships. It means you know what you need and what you don't. Being serious means seeking out the ultimate fishing machine, which is what Peter Miller has found in the unmatched handling, speed, and comfort of an Invincible.
It's the simple things, like spending a day at the beach, splashing in the water, playing in the sand, and creating sandcastle masterpieces. Rediscover fun and family on the beautiful white sand beaches of Gulf Shores and Orange Beach.
Whether you like to ride the wind, find your secret cove, or reel them in. Plot your paradise with GPS Map Series from Garmin.
Get it? Slip it, cuff it, check it. High blood pressure silently affects millions of Americans. Staying on top of your blood pressure is as simple as these 4 easy steps. Self-monitoring is power. Visit manageyourbp.org to learn more.
It all comes back to the water. This binding agent. This fluid history of connection. Past, present, and future, all tied together through this never-ending, unwavering force. We belong to a community of seekers, anglers, and everyone in between. For us, it's more than fishing, much more. It's who we are, who we were, and who we aspire to be. We
SFC coverage of the Oak Bluffs Blue Water Classic is sponsored by Invincible Boats, by Cypress Cove Marina, and by Salt Life.
We're in the Atlantic. We are no longer in the Gulf of Mexico. Good to be here back-to-back weekends. Here at the Sport Fishing Championship. Robbie Floyd and Peter Miller looking at the boats just parked out there while we have many, many boats out there running the canyons in the Atlantic. But looking back at the Gulf of Mexico events, there is one Gulf team ahead of the rest, and that is Team Quantified. They're not only the Gulf leaders, they're our overall leaders in the SFC.
That's right, Robbie. They are catching a ton of fish. Every time we see them, they're catching more and more, and they're doing multi-species. That's what I love about these guys. And once again, in that calm water backing down, that's what you see every time we look at them. It's blue marlin, it's white marlin, it's sailfish, it's quick releases, and then a jumbo, blue marlin coming next to the boat there. And you remember what happens here? They're going to need to buff that little scratch out coming up in 3, 2, 1.
Scrape it. And Quantified didn't start off the best, Peter. I remember we weren't even really talking about them too much at the first stop in Louisiana. They finished 7th there, but then they backed it up with their first victory of the year. And I say first because they would, 2 events later, get their 2nd win of the season. So we take the best 3 finishes to try and win this championship. That'll give you event points. Their best 3 finishes are a first, and a 7th. They're looking to drop that 7th. Right now, the best finisher would be lights out, 925. That's almost the equivalent to 3 blue marlin, but we know they've got 2 plus that white, and that's why they're leaps and bounds ahead of the rest.
And that extra hundo, right? That extra hundo for the first blue marlin of the Oak Bluffs Blue Water Classic tournament.
A couple of multi-catches there for the white marlin. I do believe we will see a swordfish. You get points per fish. Swordfish worth 75. We have not seen one yet this year, but we look back in our results from the years past, Peter. We heard them talking about, I caught a monster swordfish here. Will we see? I want to hear you on the record because I said yes. Will we see a swordfish before we leave here at Martha's Vineyard?
Yes, we will. And it just gave me great confidence to be able to say that because he told me he caught a 400-pounder in a tournament a few years ago. So that gives me a little, backing. He backed me up on that one, and I like that. Listen, the sword fishery, if you can dial it in with your transducers and you know the areas and you find bait and you can actually mark those fish now down to 1,800 feet, and you can use light line to get down there. It cuts through the current, and you can wind those fish up. The big ones come right to the surface. They skyrocket. You're taking up slack. You're going to be backing down and trying to get that slack as fast as you can, and they will get up there. And if you don't get them, they will get away from you, and they'll go right back down, and you'll be on it for 5 hours.
But that's info that some people that may be new to the Sport Fishing Championship don't understand. These are deep fish. They live down there deep. They feed, sometimes at night it might be easier. A couple of things, though. They can't have electric reels. They can have electric teasers, but they can't have electric reels winching these up. How long does it take you to reel up a fish that doesn't want to come up at 1,500 feet?
Well, it depends. If you hammer the drag, they will get angry. You can catch a 70 to 110-pound swordfish, and they will fight you for an hour and a half, and you'll get that fish up thinking it's going to be a 300-pounder, and it's not. These fish are ornery, they're tough, they're nasty. You jump in the water with a camera, I want to get a picture with them, you're going to get charged, and they charge everybody. Any cameraman I've ever taken out with me, they say, no, I did it one time, they cracked my camera, they broke everything, and I thought I was going to die, so I will never get in the water. Sailfish, not a problem. Blue marlin, after release, you're okay. Swordfish, but they do live down very, very deep, Robbie. They're at 1,800 feet. That's a number we generally fish with.
The other thing is you used to come here as a young kid. We'll talk about that in a bit. We've got 3 more days on there. Let's look at our playing field, our Garmin playing field, generally hanging around same and or similar area. It's not just a straight run out east to these canyons. It's actually east and then south of Nantucket.
That's right. And they have this continental shelf. They're working right on that edge. They're right on that boundary, that 130-mile boundary at the canyons.
Watch this. Miss Wilder this morning at 4:08. I mean, if you have a 4-hour run, I'm telling you, they sat down, or they might not even have sat down. They might have slowed down a bit, about 10 miles an hour to troll, and they caught one really early this morning.
4:08 a.m., and now I'm looking at a catch alert at 6.
Are you letting the cat out of the bag? We're going to work our way through.
All right,
How long
Robbie.
have you been doing this, Peter?
Not long enough, apparently.
We're going to have to put you off-site with Site 1. Caught yellowfin tuna off-site at 7:35. And going through there, you're seeing multiple big eye tuna. I believe it might have been Gypsy that we heard they had 6 rods out, and they might have had 6 rods loaded up.
Robbie, that's what I always ask for. I say get as many bites as you can, and they clear their lines for you. That's a perfect scenario.
Big wahoos to be caught here. We're going to have a wahoo leader. Again, these guys, when they're fishing 2 days, they're not going to come in today because then they'd have to run back out again. They're going to come in tomorrow, and we might see, is that wahoo going to be big enough? I tell you, there's one guy in particular, or one lady, Maricela Echeverria, that doesn't want it to be over 73 pounds.
She does not, but I was looking at some of the numbers. There was a 120 to a 130 caught yesterday in Fiji. Yeah. This is in Fiji, and the biggest of all time was 202, but it didn't count for a world record because it was rods were being passed back and forth.
Outnumbered 2. There's our one boat that went out yesterday. They caught that big eye tuna. I was told it's a 140-pounder. There are big fish in these waters, and the one thing that you pointed out there at 5 o'clock, there was one caught just a moment ago, and it was Miss Wilder, wasn't it?
Oh, okay. You get let the cat out of the bag. There we go.
They started the day. They're going to end the day either way, Peter. Now I want to get to it. You used to come here as a young child and spend your times. You grew up in New York City and around there. Your dad worked there, but you would come up here to vacation.
Is this a Barbara Walters moment? You trying to make me cry?
No.
Listen, Robbie, we had a great time. We'd come up here, as a kid, and I would go trout fishing in a lake that we'd stay at every summer. 2 weeks, my buddy and I'd bring a friend, we'd bring corn. This was our bait, corn. And we'd drop it down the bottom of this lake, 90 feet of water. We'd have a small hook with weights on it, take a canoe across the lake to drop to this one area where we knew we could catch them. And we would catch brook trout, brown trout, rainbow trout. We'd bring them back to the dock. We'd cut them and we'd clean them. And then we figured out how to cook them. And we found that they ate all the corn we threw down. Basically, the entire can was in their stomachs at the end of the day. But what really happened, Robbie, was the fact that I started saltwater fishing simultaneously, and we'd go out for bluefish and stripers and scup, and I'd bring home so many scup that my dad would say, Peter, what are you going to do with them? Who's going to take care of these fish? I said, Dad, if we can keep them, I will fillet them. And I remember filleting scup on a table similar to this for about 5 hours with 6 million mosquito bites. I basically, I couldn't even pick my pencil or pen up at the end of the day, and I learned my lesson. Filleting fluke and flounder. We caught a ton of really good eating fish, and then we'd have these great lobster rolls, and I have such fond memories of this area. The beaches, the lake, the wonderful people here, and the food is just out of this world.
How many lobster rolls have you had so far?
That's all I'm eating. I'm only eating lobster rolls. If you guys don't see me again, I'm basically floating somewhere with lobster rolls in my belly.
Well, I was wondering why your nickname was Little Nibbler when you were younger, and it was from that little can of corn.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
I got it. Look at the teams that are out there. And hit me with it. There we go. At 6'10", Miss Wilder caught a yellowfin tuna, and that is one of our championship division fish. It could be a $50,000 fish. You think that's going to come from this area? I think it's going to be hard to beat a 200
I don't know.
pounder, right?
I feel like the bluefin are like eating more than the yellowfin. So I feel like the bluefin are going to be stealing from the yellowfin. So I don't think we're going to get to that 200-plus pound mark like we did in the Gulf, which was a 206-pounder.
Let's take a look ahead with Smith Optics. You notice I threw on the old Smiths there towards the end. And we're going to be at the Texas International Fishing Tournament, aka TIFT event, first week of August. I'm looking forward to going to my home state, or being in my home state for that one, because a lot of boats take off, and it's a variety. When I write the species we're looking for, it's across the board there in Texas.
Oh, and they say everything's bigger in Texas, and I tell you what, the catch rate is bigger in Texas right now. I'm hearing reports that the billfish population is swarming. It's in swarm mode.
And if you don't join us in Texas, make sure you head on down to Puerto Rico, the International Billfish Tournament, August 20th. I think it kicks off on August 18th, so that's my birthday. We're ready to party in Puerto Rico. That's our next time to be on site with Site 1.
Oh, I can't wait to celebrate you, Robbie. It's another trip around the world for you.
Happy birthday. You had a birthday since we were last on here.
That's right. I'm getting a little older, a little wiser, I hope.
And we're in Martha's Vineyard in Falmouth, Massachusetts. It was a great day. After coming out of New Jersey and wondering what we're going to catch, it was Tuna Palooza there. It is Billfish Palooza here on the Sport Fishing Championship. We've got another full day tomorrow, another day after that. And you can join us in the morning at 9 a.m. on SportFishingChampionship.com.